You in?
Yep. Okay, cool. There you go. Where's that? This side. This side.
Sorry, it's a brand new one, so.
Yeah, that's fine. In?
All right. Let's see it. Searching for the signal?
Yeah, it's just flicking it off now. Yep.
All right.
No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, let's start this.
Just, it's all him.
We good? We're good.
Yep,
Go.
cool.
You're
Fantastic.
live. You're live. Everyone's watching you.
Excellent. Okay. Hello, everybody. I was kind of thinking today what to do, because obviously we could have done some of the fusion things, or we could have done some stuff around modeling. But what I wanted to do is share with you my journey on how I got into this. Perhaps what I've learned from being part of this wonderful community, and also guess where I think the direction is, and of where the club's going, and where the community's going. So I've called it Mr. Baddeley's Modelling Madness and Mayhem. I use the word lunatics a lot when I talk about our collective group, and I think you've all got to be slightly unhinged to have this as a hobby, and as an obsession, as a lifestyle, and as a way of draining all your finances. So I want to start a little bit about me. I didn't know where to start, so I asked ChatGPT. I said, tell me about Mr. Baddeley, the person behind Mr. Baddeley's Printed Droids. This was immediately followed by my wife asking ChatGPT about her. And ChatGPT didn't know about Catherine, so which is quite funny. No, but the thing that came out of this were things that I feel passionate about, really, which was around building that community of builders, supporting people, everybody being kind of nice. And that you know, if we've reached a point where ChatGPT knows that's pretty cool. And it's, as it said there, it's not more than a hobby. It's a way to engage with a global community of enthusiasts who share this passion. And that's probably at the heart of everything that I've tried to do since I started with this bunch of lunatics. So a little bit of background. How did I get into this? I inherited this device, which was a MakerBot Replicator 2X. We bought one for work, and I was using it to demonstrate what 3D printing was, as a toy almost, to say, look, this is really cool. We chose to then sell another brand. So my boss said, do you want that box? So I said, yeah, I'll take that home. I spent a few months printing small dragons off Thingiverse and got a little bit bored. So I thought, I want to set myself a challenge. I want to learn how to do modeling, how do you create these files? And so I chose a very simple thing to start with. I chose the dome of R2-D2. I thought, how hard can it be? It's a ball, you cut it in half, you've created R2-D2. I had no idea of the club. I was not part of Estromech. I'd not met anybody. I didn't even know these people existed. So I just started doing this as a little bit of hobby. I Googled blueprints, pictures. I think there was a very old, I think it was Mark Duino blueprint that I kind of managed to get off the internet somewhere and started to model that. And then as I was modeling it, I was dropping it onto Thingiverse, more as a way of kind of just storing it rather than sharing. And that's when I suddenly got hit by this barrage of lunatics. So people going, hey, we're part of the R2-D2 Builders Club. I thought, there's a club that build these things? Okay, cool. That's good. We'll like that. And this is amazing, because one of the things that we can't do is make laptops work. Now, it just magically fixes itself, doesn't it? That's what's happened previously. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, one of One of the things that's hardest thing to fabricate is the dome because of the shape. You know, the rest of the stuff we can make out of plastic and wood and metal and etc. So a real appreciation of this. And that's when I started to engage with the builders. The next wave then came, it's all wrong. Which we all recognize. So there's lots of people sort of saying, you know, this angle's out. You can see here, these two rings are the same size. One should be thinner than the other. So, I took that as a challenge. That was lovely. It was iterative. I managed to get better references and work into a lot more kind of accurate blueprints. And that's when I kind of discovered Astromech. The other thing I get asked about is this picture. So this was completely random. I had a Facebook account like most people had. I was playing around with Photoshop. I did a load of completely bizarre tweaks of me, one of which I put myself a white hat on, a handlebar mustache, and a cravat. And I thought it was cool. And the only reason this is my image is because at the time this was my Facebook picture, and it got transferred over to Thingiverse. So when I first started to go into meets and to conventions, the disappointment in people's faces. Like, oh, is that you? We expected this mad flamboyant Englishman with a handlebar mustache and a cravat. So I have since tried to grow a handlebar mustache, and it's nowhere near as good as that one. So I thought I'll just kind of give up. But yeah, that's kind of where that image came from. And then this chap, does anybody know who this is? I think it's Andrew Phillips he's called, I think. No? Yes. Yeah. Yep, it is. So he was there right from day one on Thingiverse. And he was one that contacted me and said, you know, can I join your group? I said, yeah, of course you can. A group? I need to make a group quickly because one person's asked to join the group. So hence I did the Mr. Baddeley's Printed Droid Facebook group. So this was a series of madness and mayhem that kind of created or started to create this community. Now I want to put this, when that group started, the most important thing to me about that group was how everybody worked together, how everybody supported each other, how everybody was really inclusive and kind of supportive across the whole community. So I put there as community of heroes and lunatics. I am in awe of everybody that I meet. I couldn't want to do kind of a wall of heroes. What puts me off is I'll probably miss some of the heroes off the wall. But there's, you know, everybody knows somebody within our group who's done some fantastic thing, contributed. So that community was very, very precious to me. And I guess the adventures and the meets and the traveling that we've done, and actually a full circle of friendship is what's really come out of it that myself, Catherine, etc. kind of value. And wherever we travel, you know, we start coming over here and Tim O'Sullivan goes, hey, come and stay at my place, you know. So we actually, you know, we kind of stay at people's houses for free, you know. No, but yeah. Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean that's probably the most important thing. The other thing, and I know Steele was talking about this before, which is the rules. Again, you know, my sole rule is we have no rules, exactly as Steele says. That's American belief. Yes, I completely agree with that. But the rules that I wanted to set with these three, which is new members ask the questions, you know, and again, because to delve into even the forums and all of the information that's there, some people do not consume information that way, and some people don't want to consume information that way. So I'm cool with everybody asking questions. If you don't want to answer the question, you can scroll past it, and most cases people will answer the questions. And that's kind of the heart, I guess, of the community that we've created. The other one is, for the more experienced members, share that information, you know, share it and ask more stupid questions. And then you get guys that like are way up there with the notches on the belts and they've been doing decades of building. But all you've got to do then is remember how we all started when we went, how the hell do you fabricate this? What does electronics mean? And coding is some kind of wizardry that we don't understand. So we've all started there. So that's, I guess, from my perspective, how we really started to build the culture and the community of Mr. Baddeley Printed Droids. And then, because of our age bracket, I thought Fonzie's quite a cool character, So be like Fonzie and just be cool. Don't kind of argue, whatever. And yeah, so there, we've been doing about 7 years now. We've got 30,000 members, which is a mind-blowing figure. And we've also done loads of the Drinks and Droids, which is just started 11 minutes ago, which is cool. We had our 100th celebration last time, thank you. And most importantly, kind of hundreds and hundreds of friendships and in some cases relationships that have started through some of that, which has been brilliant. So once I started doing R2-D2's dome, the next question was kind of what's next? And what fascinated me with that technology was around 3D printing is really kind of exploring the boundaries of it. There's some stuff on there. I 3D printed the battery cables in flex with all of the patterns on the outside, and then they've got a solid core. That's a completely nonsense way of making battery cables. You just go and buy them. You do not print them. What I wanted to do is 3D print the whole R2-D2, everything from the batteries, the drives, obviously some electronics you can't do, just really to see what the limits was of this material. Because I've been told when we started this that, there's certain things you can't do. One of the things I got told is you cannot 3D print a full R2-D2 because it won't cope with the stresses. Okay, we'll try that. We'll take that challenge. So we had 3D printed battery cables, the drive. This drive was the first drive that I did, which was a TPU tooth belt running off a scooter motor, and that my droid's 8-9 years old now. It's still running on that TPU belt, which is bizarre. Again, I wouldn't recommend it at all under any circumstances. But it worked. It worked for me. The first thing I built before I decided to roll it along was a 232 mechanism. So I built R2-D2, and what we'll do is we'll get it to go automatically from 3 legs to 2 legs to 3 legs. Luckily, I'd not read all of the forums or spoken to anybody about it to tell me how stupid that was. So that's kind of what we started with. And I got a 232 droid that kind of worked on that very, very first version. Again, it's not reliable. It certainly wouldn't release the files, but I wanted to test it. Now, as I said, I got this statement of you cannot 3D print a full R2-D2. It can't cope with the stresses. This was followed by the same guy posting a picture of him riding his R2-D2 around, sitting on it. It was a full steel one. So I was determined that what I'd do is kind of get something that we can do that. So I'm playing with this at the moment. This is a mini bike. So it's a bike. It's about this big. It folds up. And as you can see there, it's carrying about 400 pounds in weight. All 3D printed. Gearbox is 3D printed. The drives are 3D printed. Again, wouldn't recommend that, but we've got to test the boundaries. The other one is, and this was down to that you can't go. You can't 3D print a full R2-D2, so yeah, that was very, very nervous. The first drive that I did of it, and I do know it looks like a toilet. I can't change that. So yeah, and I just released those files. But that was an interesting one to design because it's a 3-legged droid, so it's got all of the angles, but it's coping with 115 kilos on that particular film. So it can carry quite a lot of weight, and I'm sure it can carry more. It's running on 2 Neo brushless motors. It's a printed 9-to-1 gearbox that's in there, and it can go a lot faster than I can stay on it. So, as I discovered the first time I got on it, sat down, oh look, why is it over there and my back's hurting? Yeah. So that sense of concentration on that is genuine. You've got to really sort of balance. So I'm printing 3 of those at the moment. The DB UK, I want to explore jousting. I thought it'd be fun. We'll get some pool noodles. I think that's what you guys call them, and yeah, we'll just try and joust each other. There is a dome that goes with that. The dome will exactly. The dome will turn. The dome comes off, and inside there is a hat, so you can wear the dome. So again, 5-0 first, guys. We've got this covered. We can now cosplay R2D2. Yeah. Okay. The other one was complexity. This little fella, B2. This was version 1. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. This was a real collaborative build. It's the first collaboration build I've really done. We did it with Tim Hebel and Alec from Australia. What was funny about this is we said, okay, well, do we want to do a project together? Yes. Right. What should we do? I said, well, I'll do the head and the middle. Alec was doing some of the electronics. And then, Tim, you do drives. You want to do drives? Yeah, we'll do that. The drives are a nightmare. I apologize to Tim every time I see him because I'm sure he thinks I've stitched him up because they kind of go out, they go in, they pull around. But again, it was a brilliant, probably one of the most complicated ones that I've designed because of that movement where it can go up, down, it can tilt, it can move forward and backwards. It's got the full head movement. The other one was this little fella, which is one of my favorites. It's actually it's the DO engine. So the DO that you can see over there, you can convert a DO to that just by adding a couple of skins. It's amazingly fun at cons, and little kids love it because of the size. It's not scary, so it really rolls up to them, and you can nudge them with it. The only problem with it is because it's got a spinning dome on top, you've no idea which way's forward. So it takes the 2 shoulders are different, so you have to work out which shoulder is which to know, so you don't lose the general direction of travel. This was one of my favorites. This was a collaboration with Dave Move. Well, not collaboration, but I spoke to Dave and said, would you be prepared just to share the Pit Droid files with me? I told him what I wanted to do and that I wanted to do this little racer. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing anything else with it, and so Dave very kindly shared them. Sorry, I just started watching that video. But yeah, so he's a real cutie. Pugs like them as well. So if you've got a pug, it's like a little pug friend. Yeah, that's Darcy. Darcy, our pug. She doesn't like anything bigger than that really, but that particular one she's quite happy to chase it around until it turns around and faces, and then she's like, no, I'm not having any of that. And also the death racers. I think you may well have seen some of the death racers. Sam Prentice at the moment's at another printing conference, and they have these mad death racers where they all come together and smash into parts. And that's one thing I've learned actually, because in the UK people spend hours making all these things and they build them and they're fantastic. The last thing they want to do is smash them up. You come to America, they build these death races and they go, right, let's have a oh look, it's like plastic everywhere, let's break it, so yeah, you've got a very unique style in that way. And this was the new drives that I introduced for the racers. Again, just seeing what's kind of speed and things that I can get out of it. That is a fast droid. It's also uncontrollable, as you can see. But again, you're Americans, you like fast and uncontrollable, don't you? Yeah, that's cool. And then immediately after doing B2, we did B2 V2, which is the second iteration. One, because the old one was about 7% too small, and then secondly, I really had to do something with the drives because there's a lot of stress and flex on there. So this was the first prototype of the B2 V2, testing all of the lifts and then also testing all of the foot shells and the foot lifts and how it all worked together. So it's a lot stronger one. I also made this one modular. We talked a little bit yesterday about putting magnets in everything. So all the different assemblies come out in magnets. Additionally, with this, you can literally take all the skins off in about 5 minutes. When I was talking to Lee, he said, "Oh, that would have been great on the pine wood one," because there's to shift from the dented one to the skins was quite a challenge. The other thing, when I was on B2, again in the UK, we're very fortunate because we've got Lee Towersy and we've got a lot of the Pinewood guys. They come to these kind of things and they tell you nothing. Absolutely, and they smile at you when they tell you nothing. But you know, they're very interested, and I know certainly they watch what we all do in the club, particularly when you've got new droids out, and particularly on the more large and the more complex ones. And then a few other designs. This did very quickly move out of the kitchen and out of the dining room. Sorry, the dining room. It did fund a shed for me, which was quite cool, I thought. So Catherine was like, "Yeah, we could get your workshop outside. That's a good idea." So as these things continue to grow, so you can kind of see. That's because the shed's too small. Sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, that's the other thing about droids. They just appear everywhere. They're autonomous. I had no responsibility. And then yes, Chopper. Out of all, my favorite is Chopper for two reasons. One, I guess, the design. It was one of the designs I'm most proud of because it was the cumulative learnings of about 7 or 8 years, and everything went into that, and really pleased how it goes together. The second one is the character of Chopper is amazing. A little story on Chopper. So when I first designed and built Chopper, I got the body going and I got the legs going, and he was in 2-leg mode. So I'd put the foot locks in, and he's quite stable in 2-leg mode. And I thought I'd give him a whirl. So I tentatively tried the controls, massively overpowered. So he's quick, but that was okay. And then I thought, well, I now need to set the mixing up for the tank drives. So I went into the settings on the remote, and it was a FlySky remote, and I hit the button that basically tested all the channels, where it just goes like this on all the sticks automatically. So, and it was a very Chopper moment. So I was sat there, and Chopper just went boom. I'm going to destroy your S5. Boom! So he knocked the printer off, and then he's over there, and then he's R2D2's right rolling along, going, what's happening? Because he's literally pushing R2D2 along the floor. I had to rugby tackle him to the ground and lift him up, and then before I could actually switch it off. So a little fun story with Chopper. The other thing I wanted just to talk shortly about was the COVID years. This was, again, it was a suggestion, I think, from one of the group, which was kind of like, why don't we have a video conference? You recognize a lot of faces on there, all wearing domes, which is great fun. And so we started doing drinks and droids. We're going to do a couple of drinks and droids just to get us through COVID, and it's just not stopped since. So we're now at, I think the one that's on at the moment is about 105th, I want to say, about 105 we've done. We recently had the 100 celebration. But this really is what brought everybody together. I think it also, the clubs regionally work closely together, kind of at steel level and talking, but this also brought all of the individuals together. And I think this kind of almost sort of ignited a lot of the collaborative things like the Steam stuff and all these kind of things, you know, because we're suddenly talking about rallings and random things that started to connect these connections. So really pleased with, I'm really proud, I guess, that we managed to support that and bring people together during times where a lot of people were struggling. The other thing that we did through COVID and we continue to do was the virtual fundraising where we had events. So depending whether we've done a lot of auctions, and everybody's been incredibly generous with some of the things that they've donated. And some very unique things that have been donated. And Gordon Tarpley donated some printed heads of his droid that he used on the, what was it called, the kids program that was on YouTube. Yeah. So Jedi. Yep. So and we just had a fabulous set of donations, and again a fabulous amount that was donated. So we've raised about $18,000 so far, and we did during COVID we did a lot around mental health and Save the Children, because they were really spearheading where I guess globally we were struggling during COVID. So very pleased with that. So I'm just going to delve into some of the things that I've learned from this. So the first one is scale and reference. I mentioned before about R2-D2's dome and whether it's accurate or not accurate. There's a fantastic application that if you haven't got it on your phones, get hold of it. It's called Scaniverse. So Scaniverse is it's on iOS. I think it's also on Google and on Android, and it allows you to very quickly move your phone around and do a full 3D scan. Full 3D scan. I discovered it at Celebration, which is where and that picture at the top left is segmented one from this absolutely spot. I'm assuming that eventually we'll catch on because really taking a photograph. We were at Lucasfilm tour. We were enough to go on the Lucasfilm tour, and we said, you know, are we okay to take pictures? And he said, yeah, just take pictures of anything that you want. We turned the corner and B2Emo was there. So I was taking a very long picture using Scaniverse. Yes. Oh, it's okay. This angle now. So yeah, amazing thing is on Scaniverse. That's me with B2Emo, as you can see on that one. Again, Chopper, we've got some amazing references for Chopper. That's Sai. So when we didn't know the scale of B2Emo, we came over to London. One of her trips was to the theatre where they, on the red carpet, they showed B2Emo. And so Sky's there with a tape measure, measuring the tiles on the floor, so she could then get the scales. These are the lengths we go. Inman was at Galaxy when the little duckling droids came out, so he was getting loads of pictures, and then he was messaging us, and he was messaging Sky. Sai was on the call, and he's messaging to get, and Sai says, "Get something at scale." And she's like, no, we don't know how big your shoe is, or how big your... He's like, I've got a $20. Yeah, get a $20 bill. So this is while he's there. So he's got $20 bill put together a piece of Galaxy Edge so we could get the size reference. So the lengths and that we go to all of this is hence lunatics. The other thing that I've learned, and this, again, we've heard quite a bit of this over the last few days, is learn the process. And what I mean by that is I get asked a lot around what layer, what wall thicknesses we do, what infills you, etc. And it's really difficult to answer those questions, mainly because it depends on your printer, it depends on your filament. But what I mean by learn the process is try and really understand, analyze, and test and play with what thermoplastics do. Because once you start to understand it, that's when you can start to realize that your wall thickness is what gives you strength. It's not infill and all of these kind of things. So once you've learned the process, don't accept the rules, and then sort of start to push the boundaries. I know on some designs, the one design that blew everybody's mind was the R2D2 dome with open panels, and up until that point, everything that I designed didn't have any supports. So it was a full R2D2. It had and it's like at the top where it supported it as at that, and all I was really I was just exporting the model. I wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, so the particular dome was a complete accident. It wasn't designed to be printed, and it's one that everybody uses today and is still kind of astounded at how it works, including me, but it does do. On the Mark IV, the recent one, I've done quite a few tweaks, which is now, well, I would say, designed to be printed. The other thing with wood, I think Tim mentioned this, printing is like wood, it's got grain in it, so it's making sure you've got the grain. One trick I would highly recommend for everybody who prints for these full-scale ones is put the nozzle up about 10 degrees higher than what it's set. And the reason for that is most printers, the Bamboos, the Prusa's, and what's on the printer filament, that temperature is to give you the optimum print for a small dragon. What that means is it's actually printing, in my view, printing cooler than it should be, so you're not getting the same layer adhesion. If you knock it up 5 or 10 degrees, it doesn't really affect quality at all. What it does do is it'll give you more adhesion on the layers. And that's something I've been playing around with recently. Sort of discovered. I've not documented it or thinking out it, but it logically makes sense. And that's what I say about this is push the boundaries and play with stuff. It's not building a droid, it's learning how not to build a droid. That's what we do. The third one is about, it's all compromise. It's all about compromise. We compromise on everything. Chopper was a compromise. I was working, this came from a request and with Michael McMaster to redo Chopper, because the one that he did with for Lucasfilm, this issue that you see on there is actually from the animated series, in that the mesh just goes into the battery boxes. It's CGI. It doesn't matter. We can do all of that. It's a bit like the booster rockets. They just go actually halfway into the body when they fold in. But obviously, we're trying to do it practically. So when I was doing this bit, Michael said, can you do something better than just extending the leg? So what I ended up doing was shrinking the battery box a tiny fraction, changing the angle of that upper skirt bit in a little bit, and then extending the leg a little bit, so that actually what we got was more accurate to the original model, but still maintained kind of the look as well as actually being functional. So that's another, and when we compromise on everything, I guess when you're designing these things. And the other one is around failure. This is a very classic clip. If you've not seen this before, this is Rick. Rick's the Rick wave, as I think is now famous within the group. But this is where Rick wave started. There we go. The unfortunate one is that actually Rick shared this, and it overshadowed the previous one, which was Lee Towersy when he was building his garage. He's got his camera set up in his garden. He's walking along with his wheelbarrow, and then he literally fell on his ass, and so that one was doing the rounds. He fell on his ass, whatever you call it. That was literally doing the rounds previous to that. So that's one, and the other one is Droid Builders the Best of Folk. It's I cannot express or put into words what this community is like. They're absolute heroes. There's people will do anything for anybody, and this was a thing that we did for Pedge in the UK, who's our C3PO, who unfortunately passed away. So and it's times like that you realise, and the happy birthday, Dad, thing that we had before that makes this community, in my opinion, probably the best. So where are we now? I'm just going to wrap up a little bit on some of the future trends that I think are going forward, and also, ask we support, embrace, explore some of these. The first one is this best of all worlds, and my analogy to this is I was a absolute special effects nerd when I was a kid. When I was about 8, I used to watch more makings of than I watched actual movies, and I loved it. It's fantastic, all of how they did things. And then CGI came along, and it destroyed me. I was kind of, oh, you're just painting now. This isn't fun. Before you were blowing things up without killing actors, or sometimes killing actors. But it's so there's this CGI thing, and then suddenly everything went CGI, and we were getting movies that were almost complete animated cartoons, in CGI, and that was really disappointing. But what's happened now is we've moved back so that it's practical effects enhanced with CGI. What we're doing is we're using the best of everything, and I think that's the same with what we're doing. I push the boundaries on 3D printing and the technology. We've got some of the AI tools that are coming along now. Where I think the future is where we then start to do what they've done in the movie industry, which is bring it together. It's like the hybrid stuff that we saw today, using the right materials and the right approach for the right settings, and also what works for people. Some people have got 3D printers and want to 3D print everything. They are good people. Some people want to do aluminium. They're also good people. No, it is. I joke that I say I hate aluminium, but actually, to me, what happens is 3D printing is a real open, inclusive on-ramp into building, and then the next one, they'll often come up apologetically going, I'm going to build an aluminium one now. And so, no, it's great because they've used that as an on-ramp, and most of the droids outside of R2D2 are 3D printed as a standard anyway. So, it's a really good way of pushing those things along. The second one is technology. Again, going back to the old makings of, I used to watch these computer-controlled cameras going behind X-Wings in the old making of Star Wars and stuff, and thinking, oh my God, this is fantastic, but you'd have to sell your house and your car to be able to afford it. Where we are now, if I could grab 8-year-old me and sort of throw myself into this and go like, there's an Arduino, and it's only $8, I'd be like, wow. So the tools and technology that we've got to build these things is magical. It's absolutely fascinating. And we're doing some work on the duckling at the moment with Alec and Mimir. So I don't know how you pronounce his name. Mimir, okay, that's it. Yep. And there, at the moment that the duckling is finding 1,000 ways to fall over in a simulated environment, and then eventually it's going to be able to stand up, and eventually it's going to be able to walk, and that's like witchcraft to most of us. So again, what we've got to do is start to embrace that, and even if we can't fully embrace it, try to bring that into the next generation of droid builders. We had a Drinks and Droids one where we brought, I think it was your first robotics team that came to the Drinks and Droids. So we got all these builders on the Drinks and Droids, and we welcomed them, and we all started to share our immense amount of experience, and here's an Arduino, and here's a servo, and all these things moving. And they're like, yes, that's great, and they was all smiling. And I said, do you want to share what you're doing? And then it's, yeah, here's a robot that plays basketball. And so, oh, okay. yeah. So tapping into that knowledge is phenomenal. And if we can unlock that somehow in the next generation, and we can start to kind of embrace it, I think that's a really important future trend. And then the last one, I think, is we've talked a lot about this, but the community. And one of my previous passions was special effects, makeup, and sculpting and foam latex. And when I was doing this when I was about 18 or 19, I was hanging on the coattails of a guy called John Woodbridge, who's, I think he's Stuart Freeborn's nephew or something, but he'd created the Woodbridge foam system. But the only way you could get anything around this when I was a kid was going to these London shops that only sold makeup for film or for television. And then I look now, what we've got is this huge online community of people that are doing this as a hobby. And I think it's closed the gap now. So, some of the work that we're doing on droids and some of the work that they're doing around animatronics is as good as some of the movie stuff. So, and that's down to the fact that we can quickly share and quickly share our knowledge and learn online. So I think the other, and it's not a future trend, but it's something that we've got to find out how all of those social media platforms work and how the next generation of builders want to consume. So not keeping our closed mind on what we're comfortable with, but kind of exploring some of the other areas. And so again, I've talked a lot about community. This is a picture of Michael McMaster, myself, Lee Towers, Matt Denton. So all in bed. Yes, that was. No, I just wanted to wrap up, I guess, on a few of personal kind of memories and adventures that I've been really lucky enough to. And getting into bed with Michael McMaster is an adventure, by the way. This is probably one of my favourite pictures because Catherine's in it, of course. Just double checking. No, it's I don't know. It's just kind of the people, the lighting. It's just wonderful bunch of individuals. We went on holiday to Florida, and there was people who had the lightsaber groups. They were like, "Oh, we'll bring a bunch of people with lightsabers to get photographs at Galaxy's Edge." So that was our family holiday, where we kind of got dragged into these lightsaber photographs, much to the amusement of my children, who were constantly ribbing me about this kind of stuff. But so yeah, we've had some incredible adventures. I know we've done a lot of pitches for Steam today, and I support, and along with a small group in the UK, we do a lot of work around Steam. It is by far the most rewarding thing we do. It's brilliant, it's fantastic, and it also inspires next generation of kids. What I personally would like to see is a lot more kids at these kind of events. I'm assuming that between us we have a child or two, I don't know, or we certainly have friends that have got children, and so what we've got to do is not come along to our events and do what we do, but come along to our events and do things that kind of really engage you and make you want to come along. So it's one of the things that I'm puzzling around on the UK guys, how we bring that into some of our meets. That's when I got eaten by a sandcrawler. I think John was sharing his sandcrawler before, and he went, "Do you know what? I didn't glue that top bit, and I just lifted off, and I can get inside, and I can." That's a really good idea. That would stop other builders ridiculing me by taking pictures of me when I've been eaten by a sandcrawler. So yeah, and there's a smattering of other ones. So yeah, so that's it. I'm quite happy to take any questions, but I think that the main, I guess, gratitude and thanks for me is being part of this community, is meeting all the people that are part of it. And I get a lot of people today and yesterday came up and shook my hand and thanked me for doing stuff. I'm English. I don't deal with those things really well. But it means a massive amount. I feel a little bit of a fraud. In fact, I feel a lot of a fraud because it's the people that made that. All I tried to do is create an environment where they kind of thrive. So a big thank you to everybody for that, because you're all fabulous. Cool. Okay, any questions?
Any questions? I got a microphone.
Question on when you have the 3D printed stuff, obviously it restricts some of the internal stuff. So do you end up having like prescribed solutions for things like motors, motor controllers? So, does that sort of, if you 3D print, sort of lock you into certain solutions for the drives or other things? Or is there room for custom, is everybody's droid the same if it's 3D printed mechanically, or is there variety?
The answer to that is no. There is a lot of variety. There's two real important design constraints I look at for. One is it's affordable, You know, 3D printing is cheap, and what I try to do is get cheaper components. The second one is that everything is available globally. That's another thing that's quite difficult because, you know, every country has different things. I do metric screws. You know, I know you guys have loads of metric screws over here, so everything's okay. But they're the two things. But the actual components, the actual electronics, you can run various motors. You can run all sorts of controllers. And as soon as you release, and that's part of the reason why I'm sharing all the Fusion files, is if people want to modify them. There's two ends of the spectrum, which is I'm just starting off, I want to learn how to do it. I just want to follow instructions. And then the other one, which is kind of give me all of the Fusion files, and I'll modify it. But there's no real limit as to the solutions or the technology you can use in it. Cool. Any more questions? No? Oh. Yes, sir.
Not necessarily a question, but just a quick pitch. If anybody wants to see a Mark IV dome, complex dome, there's going to be one up for auction. It's over on the right side of the table there. You can take a look at all the latest and greatest of what Michael's been doing.
Oh, and Michael has signed it, actually.
Printed. Yeah, it's better print than mine, that one. Any more? No?
Any other questions?
Nope.
I've had a few of these discussions this weekend already, and you've been very successful at developing a community, and mostly through Facebook. And so it feels to me nowadays there's a kind of a splintering in the community where there's some people only on Astromech, some people only do Facebook, there's Discords, there's this, there's that. I mean, I know this is a pretty big question that we probably all needed to discuss, and maybe that'll come up tomorrow on the forum talk. Have you found that, have you limited participation just going through Facebook, or is that not a concern? Just the broader question of the splintering of communications, I guess.
It's a brilliant question. It is a brilliant question. It's also the way the world is, that we all consume information differently. We use Facebook. Probably my generation, I use Facebook. We've got forums. Personally, I don't worry about it. I think people migrate to the areas that they want to do. What I don't do is I don't, in no way try to constrain that, because I don't think you can. I think it's like trying to hold the tide back. So somebody wanted to do a Discord channel, so I created a Discord channel and created the group, and we've got some guys that kind of support that and administer it. I don't go on very often. If there's any questions on there, he'll normally ping me and say, you got an answer to that. So I think it's what is the appropriate platform. If we choose to limit everything to a bulletin board or a Facebook group, we switch off so many people, and I think that's the risk of it. So unfortunately, I think we've got to embrace chaos in some degree.
I'm old enough to miss the Yahoo groups. The emails came to me, and I could sort them in Outlook, and now I have to go into the forums and open the drawers and Facebook and everything. It's like, gotta go everywhere. Anybody else? Any other more questions?
Nope.
Because earlier you mentioned about the mixed media and going forward, do you have plans to integrate hinges or door panels or other type of servo mechanisms that can be used in, say, an aluminum droid or a wood droid, that kind of things? Or are those already, I just don't know the files as much.
Yeah.
If they're already available.
Yeah, so there's two things. One, I'm using a lot more aluminum in I can speak American. So yeah, I'm using more of that just to create rigidity. As I said right at the beginning, I purposefully set out to do absolutely 100% of R2 3D printed just to test the boundaries. It's not ideal for hinges. There's lots of things it's not ideal for, and certainly there's and Tim Hebble's done some amazing work on bringing some of those components back into increased reliability. Because originally I built this thing to sit in my house. I didn't realize that people took them out to 17 miles a day at cons. I think it is important to start to embrace more of that mixed materials, and D2 Emo, for example, on the second revision has got a full aluminium frame underneath it. Cool. Okay. I think that's a wrap, as they say. Thank you.
So while Michael has lovingly,